So in today's session, now I will talk about briefly about the SAT exam, how to go about preparing for it, what are the mistakes that you should avoid, and what are the do's and don'ts. We will also solve a few questions so that you will get an idea about what is required, how you are expected to prepare for the SAT exam. Some of you are already Jamboree students. So for the rest of you, so Jamboree is an organization which has been in this training industry since 1993. We train students on exams such as SAT, ACT, TOEFL, IELTS, like AP exams. We also help students prepare their profile for universities. So if you are looking for Ivy League universities or any university, then we will help you prepare your profile accordingly. And since 1993, we have had great results. We have students placed in the topmost universities in the world. Name any university and Jamboree students have been there. Therefore, we have experts who have been doing it for quite some time. For instance, I myself have been with Jamboree since 2007, and I have taught numerous students, counseled numerous students. If any of you, if you would want to have a one-on-one demo session, to where you can analyze your own strengths, etc., or if you'd like to have a discussion about your profile and how to improve your profile more on a one-on-one basis, then we will arrange a session with one of our counselors. You can leave your number in the chat. We can do that. In today's session, it will mostly be generic. It will be mostly be targeted for everyone. But if you want more customized suggestions, customized to your profile, then we'll be able to do that as well if you drop your number in the chat. And your messages are coming only to me, so you don't have to worry about other people getting access to your numbers, etc. All right, I see quite a few people typing, so I'll just pause for a moment here to finish your typing. Okay, all right. Moving on. So let's first start with the SAT exam. What is the SAT exam? Right? So the SAT exam has two broad sections, math and verbal. The verbal portion has two subsection in it. One is reading, which is reading comprehension. So you will be solving 52 questions in 65 minutes. Then there's the writing and language, which means grammar primarily. So which will be like you'll be solving 44 questions in 35 minutes. Right? So the reading comprehension section is more about you understanding and analyzing passages, whereas the grammar section is more about speed and accuracy. If you see in the writing section or in the grammar section, you have less than 1 minute per question. So the skills that are tested on both these sections are very different. Reading section, is this assesses your ability to understand and analyze, whereas the grammar section analyzes your grammar knowledge and your speed. Right? So two different sets of skills that are getting tested. Then the next portion is your math portion. In math also there are two subsections. The first section is a section again where you have to solve 20 questions in 25 minutes. This the questions are comparatively simpler. Your basic knowledge of math and your aptitude is kind of tested in this section. Then there is a longer math section where you will have to solve 38 questions in 55 minutes. As you can see, you have got a lot more time for these questions. So these questions are slightly more difficult and calculation intensive as well. So you have to like solve the questions. Therefore, you have more time given there. And because this section is slightly more difficult, right? So you are allowed to use a calculator. So in the first math section, you are not allowed to use the calculator, but in the second math section, you are allowed to use the calculator. Both these sections are scored on a scale of 200 to 800. So even if you get everything wrong, you will get 200, and the highest that you can score is 800 in a section. And both of these put together, you get your final score out of 1600. The maximum score that you can get on the SAT exam is 1600, and the minimum that you will get is 400. So your scoring effectively starts from 400. So you have got, in a sense, the computer, I mean, the system is giving you 400 marks. So out of 1600, you have to get 1200 points, right? So maximum you will get is 1600. So most Indian students, they're able to get 780, 790, 800 in math section quite easily. But in verbal section, they tend to struggle, especially in the reading portion. So the time management becomes a little difficult. And students who do not practice enough, they struggle with the time management in the grammar section. So when you are preparing for your SAT exam, so go about it a bit intelligently, right? First, find out what your strong areas are, what your weak areas are, and then work on your weak areas. If math you are already good at, then start at a higher difficulty level of math and target 800. So if you get 800 out of 800 in math, then to get to a respectable score, you can touch a 600 or 650 in your verbal, right? If you want to get a 1500, then also you have to get only 700 out of 800 in verbal. If you can manage the 800 out of 800 in math. As I mentioned, majority of our students end up getting 800 in math, and verbal is the portion where you will need to spend a lot more time practicing. It's all about practice. The questions are not difficult. Some of you have taken the SAT, so you know that the SAT exam, the questions are not difficult. If I give you a paper today and ask you to solve it without any time constraints, all of you will get a 1600. What makes the SAT exam difficult is the fact that you have to solve these questions in a timed section. All the sections are timed, right? So that makes it difficult. Okay, so this is the SAT structure. If you want, you can take a screenshot of it. Otherwise, also this information is easily available on Jamboree's website, also on the College Board official website. But if you want, you can take a screenshot of this. All right, moving on. Now the SAT preparation, you should go stepwise. Okay, there are different skills that are getting tested on the SAT. The first is, obviously, you have to know the concepts. Whatever is getting tested on the SAT, you have to know those thoroughly. So the first phase of your preparation will be to build these concepts so that you are thorough, right? Then the second stage is when you are now applying these concepts. In the second phase, you are now trying to improve your accuracy. And this is where you'll be solving a lot of questions to make sure that you are able to identify, which rule is getting tested, which concept is getting tested. So you will need to do enough practice to hit an accuracy rate of around 50 to 60%. Once you hit an accuracy rate of 50 to 60%, then the next phase is you will be building speed. So in these first two phases, you are not looking at time. You must not look at the clock at all, right? Because if you try to do too many things in one go, then there's a high probability of failure. So your preparation has to go stepwise. Add on the skills stepwise. After first skill, then add the accuracy bit. Now, in third phase, this is where you start looking at your clock. This is where you should be taking a lot of timed tests, right? Time tests to make sure that you can maintain the same accuracy rate in the given time period. Okay. Then the next skill that you will be building is mental agility. Now, this is a skill that is very unique to the SAT exam, right? In your school exams, for instance, if it's a maths exam, then the entire 3 hours you do maths. If it's an English exam, then the entire 3 hours you do English. But on the SAT exam, there are, you have to do English reading, then you have to go to a speed mode to do the grammar section, then you do math. So there are different types of questions. The frame of mind that you have to be in to do a reading passage is totally different from the frame of mind you have to be in while doing a math question. So this requires mental flexibility, the ability to switch between different types of questions and not losing time and maintaining accuracy. So that's the skill. That's what we call mental agility. Agility stands for flexibility. All right. So basically, this is the fourth phase of your preparation, right? After this, once you have sufficiently done this, once you are no longer losing time or losing accuracy while solving different types of questions, the last stage is building stamina. SAT is a long exam. It's a 3.5 hour exam. It's longer than most of your school exams. And you have to have the same level of concentration till the very last question. Therefore, you will need the habit of sitting through 3.5 hours, concentrating equally, evenly for the entire duration of 3.5 hours. So that stamina is extremely important, right? And how to build this stamina? So this is the stage when you do full length mock test, right? And in Jamboree, at least the mock test that we have, that we conduct before each SAT exam, so those are actual SAT test papers. So you practice on actual SAT test papers to make sure that your accuracy is up to mark, you have the time management skills, etc., etc. So if sometimes students ask me, how much time will I need to prepare for the SAT? So my answer is usually that it is extremely subjective. If you are spending 3 hours a day, 2 hours a day versus 1 hour a day on your SAT preparation, the time required will be different. Also, depending on your starting level, students who are bright, they tend to spend less time in each of these phases. Students who take a little bit more time, to absorb the content or to get up to speed, etc. So they may take a little longer, right? So the time that you would need to prepare for your SAT exam, the time that you would need to be ready, to take the SAT exam is very subjective. It varies from student to student, right? So you know yourself best. If you are somebody who can quickly quickly consume the content and master it, and if you can give 3 hours 2 hours per day, then you should be able to take the exam in 2-3 months also, right? But if you have a lot of things at school, if you're extremely busy, you can study only on the weekends, then it's going to take you longer, right? So it varies from what your commitments are and what starting level you are already at, right? So this is basically the when you start preparing for your SAT, I remember, do not make the mistake of trying to achieve everything in one go. It has to be a stepwise, cumulative skill building process. It cannot be just a one go. Some students start with full length tests. That is the absolutely wrong thing to do, right? Unless unless you learn to manage time section wise, do not take full length mock test, right? Full length test, you're going to waste a test. The first step is to at least learn to manage the time within the individual sections. Then you go on to full length test. All right. Okay. Moving on. Now in your SAT preparation, good news is that the SAT syllabus is very, very fixed. It's not like it's not everything under the sun. It tests you on a very limited number of concepts, limited theory. So your preparation should be focused only on the SAT. Do stuff that has come on the SAT. Do stuff that has been tested on the SAT. Don't do random stuff from the internet, right? Do not treat the SAT preparation as your grammar improvement, vocabulary improvement, etc., etc., right? It's not. You should prepare only to get a high SAT score, right? It's not about learning grammar, right? It's not about learning vocabulary. In fact, vocabulary is not even tested on the SAT. So just make sure that some students make the mistake of downloading some vocab app and memorizing words. So that's not going to help you. SAT is not a vocabulary test at all. So be smart with your time. You have limited time, so use it wisely. When solving questions, you have to focus on the quality of the questions and not on the quantity. It's not again, and same thing whether it is questions or mock tests. The focus should be on quality, not on quantity. What I mean by quality is that If you are solving 20 questions in a day, so it's a you will probably get 15 correct, 5 wrong. So when you are reviewing, don't just review the questions that you get wrong, you should also review the questions that you get correct. Now, the unique thing about SAT is that no matter how many questions you do, it is guaranteed that you are not going to get that question on the SAT exam. For every SAT exam, there is a brand new set of questions. It's not like your school exams where if you do previous years, 5 years paper, you will get some questions that are common. So SAT is not like that. For every SAT, a brand new set of questions, are created, right? So no matter how many questions you solve, you are never ever going to get that same question on your SAT exam. So your focus should be on the strategies, on the concepts, not on one particular question. SAT is a multiple choice question primarily, right? So out of 4 options, 3 are wrong, 1 is correct. So when you are reviewing the questions that you have solved, you just make sure that you are 100% sure why the other 3 options are wrong. That's the reasoning, or that's the strategy. Those are the things that will be tested on the actual exam, not on that specific question. I hope I'm able to articulate it, right? That the focus should be on the quality of the questions, how much time you are spending on reviewing your performance, and not just randomly doing several books or stuff from the internet. Okay, if you are spending 15 minutes a day solving questions, then spend 15 minutes reviewing them also. And do not review only the questions that you get wrong. Review also the questions that you get correct. Be 100% sure that your reason for getting the question correct is right. It should not be if you get a question correct just by fluke or just because you took a guess, then then it doesn't mean that you got it correct, right? On exam day, you may not have that kind of luck, right? So that's what I mean by quality over quantity. And now this is a very important point. Maintain an error log. So as I said, let's say you do 20 questions in a day and you got 5 wrong. So in a book, make a log that what are the concepts that you got the questions wrong on. Was it a geometry question? If it was a geometry question, then what was it? A circle question, triangle question? So maintain an error log of the topic for which you got the question correct, the question wrong. So maybe in a reading section, you got questions wrong. Then write, what type of question did you get wrong, right? So maintaining an error log is extremely important. That will help you. You can yourself diagnose, what your weak areas are, and then revise the theory accordingly. Okay. Next is the mock testing, right? Mock testing. So if you do your theory and everything correct, that is fine. But the number of mock tests that you take, so your SAT preparation remains incomplete unless you take at least 8 to 12 full-length mock tests. Okay. So take the mock test in a proctored environment. Proctored environment means have a friend or a relative or parent, be the invigilator. There should be someone to make sure, to that you are sticking to the time limits, the section-wise time limits. Do not take the mock test in a completely silent environment. So what this means is that the SAT test centers are usually very noisy. There will be the invigilator walking up and down. There will be other children walking down the corridors. So it's not a silent environment. So if you like, while preparing for the SAT or while taking the mock test, if you are taking it in a completely silent environment, then on the day of the exam, you will get distracted by the noise around you, right? So when you are solving questions for your SAT or when you are taking your mock test, just leave the door open. Let the natural level of noise be the same at your house, right? So just get used to concentrating in a noisy environment, because your SAT test center is not a quiet, and in fact it's quite noisy, right? As I said, take at least 8 to 12 mock tests. Unless you take enough mock tests, you are not going to do well on your SAT. That is very, very important. You have to take at least 8 to 12 mock tests. Write the last 2-3 mock tests in the exactly the same time slot as your actual SAT exam. So the actual SAT exam starts at 9 a.m. right? So your last 2-3 mock tests, should be in the 9 a.m. At 9 a.m. in the morning, because your body should get acclimatized to performing or thinking at its best, in that time slot. These are very, very small points, but these make a difference. These make a difference of 20 to 30 points on your SAT exam, right? So some of you are asking, what's the duration of this webinar? So we'll be done, before 7 o'clock, right? Okay. Next point, while taking mock test, stick to the section-wise time limits. These are the section-wise time limits in case you don't know. So the exam starts with the reading section, which is a 65-minute section. Then there is a mandatory break of 10 minutes. So when you are taking the mock test also, take the 10-minute break, right? Do not jump to the writing section immediately. So the writing section is 35 minutes. Then the first math section, the one where you are not allowed to use the calculator, so that happens. That is a 25 minutes. After that, there is a 5-minute break. And finally, the longer math section. So this is how the SAT exam is structured. And when you are taking mock test also, stick to these timings. Take the breaks, end the sections in the given time period. If in 65 minutes, if you are not able to solve 52 questions, then leave it, go to the, take the break. And when you are reviewing the test, then you can solve it, right? Okay. So now, some strategies, right? Right from after you are done with about half the content, keep an eye on the timing. So these should be your target timings. Every reading passage has 10 to 11 questions, and you should target to complete those in 12 minutes. Do not try to do time management over the whole section. The whole section may be 65 minutes, yes, but it's the section has 5 passages. So 5 passages, so approximately you have got 12 minutes per passage. So whenever like after you're done with your concepts, remember in the third phase, when you are solving questions, then this should be your target timing, right? Every reading passage 12 minutes, every grammar passage 8 minutes. So these should be your target timings. Do not try to manage time overall. Trying to manage 44 minutes is difficult, but trying to manage one passage in 8 minutes is actually far doable. So break down the problem into manageable chunks. And in maths, go beyond the obvious. Right? Today we'll solve a question, and that will probably help you understand what I'm trying to say. So there are very lot of trap options in maths, right? So there will be options that appear very, 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 very very, very easy and very, very attractive, but they are usually not the correct answers. Understand the question. So read the question, understand it, understand what you are required to do, right? In maths, the formula and all those are not tricky. The what makes the questions little difficult is that you students end up making silly mistakes if they do not read the question properly. So these are some very, very broad strategies. There are, of course, depending on the type of question, the individual strategies, which we'll be able to cover more in detail. For those of you who have dropped your number to register for the demo class, we'll be able to discuss more question specific strategies obviously, but on a bigger section wise strategy. So these are the things that you should keep in mind, right? Now I'll just talk a little bit about the writing section, because this is again 44 questions to be done in 35 minutes. So here the strategy is very, very different. When you read a passage, your first instinct is to read the passage and solve the question, but that does not work in the writing passages, right? Because you do not have the time to read the passage. So here the strategy is that do not read the passage. Start with the questions, and do not even read the question first. First thing is to read the answer options and then eliminate the wrong options. So this seems a little counterintuitive to you, right? that, okay, there's a passage and there are questions related to it, and I'm asking you not to read the passage. I'm asking you not to read the question. I'm asking you to first start by reading the answer option. So it's that it's appearing to be a little counterintuitive. It's very, very different from what you have been taught in school. It's very, very different from how you have been doing things till now, I'm pretty sure, right? But these are the strategies. That's how you can that's how you can solve 44 questions in 35 minutes, right? So let's try to put some of these into practice. Let's try to do a couple of questions. Everybody ready? Everyone ready? Do you guys want to solve a couple of questions? Yes. Okay, great. So this is a type of question that would appear, that would appear in the writing section. So there is a sentence, a portion of it is underlined. So it may be, if it is correct, then A is your answer. If it is wrong, then you have to replace it with B, C, or D. Okay. So on exam day, so this is a question that should take you around 5 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds. But today, since you are doing it for the first time, I will give you a minute. Please type your answer in the chat window. Once you are done, please type your answer in the chat window. Everyone, please attempt. Your answers are coming only to me, and it's okay if you get it wrong. This is first time you are doing it. That's perfectly okay. But please type your answers in the chat. All right. So 1 minute is up. Let's solve this. Let's try to solve this question. So remember what I told you. Do not read the question at all. Right. Let's start by reading the options. So if you go directly, if you start reading the sentence directly, then you don't know what kind of error you are looking for, right? But when you look at the answer options, you will get a hint about what kind of error, right? So here now, the first option is yet, right? So we have got yet. The second option is but. Then third is and fourth is although. So when I read the answer options, I noticed that, but, yet, and although, these three words, they have the same meaning. They are used to show contrast, right? So you can say that he is good in studies, yet he did not score well. Or he is good in studies, but he did not score well. Although he is good in studies, he did not score well. So all these three words are actually used to show contrast. So you cannot pick one over the other. There is no reason to pick one over the other. So the obvious answer is C. Once you have eliminated 3 options, you will be left with only 1 option. So C is your answer. And you get this question correct in less than 5 seconds. On the other hand, if you start reading the sentence, it's like in George Orwell's famous allegorical novel. So some of you may get little worried about, oh my God, I don't know the meaning of allegorical. Am I going to get the question correct? So the fact is that you, of course, don't even need it. But, and then you read Animal Farm, the pigs were smartest. So when you read all of this, then everything starts sounding correct, right? Too many big words. This has too many big words, but the point is that, if you go through use a strategy that we train you on, you get this question correct in less than 5 seconds, right? So that's why. And remember, in this section you are getting tested on your ability to solve questions quickly. Your speed is what is getting tested. So obviously you have to find some shortcuts. Obviously you will have to need some strategies that probably you have not been using till now ever, right? So let's try to do one more question, right? Let's try to do one more. So Krish, you want to know, instead of smartest, if it is written shortest, doesn't matter, right? Shortest, biggest, fattest, does not matter, as long as these are the answer options. So you have to pick one answer options. As long as these are the answer options, and is always going to be a correct answer, right? Because you have to pick one option from among the 4. All right, let's do another one. And this question, please use this strategy. Do not read the question. You go through the answer options to see what kind of error you are being tested on. Okay, let's look at this now. Going by our method, let's not read the question. We are not reading the main sentence. We are reading the answer options. So A stands for his. No change means his, right? Then this kings, their, the latter kings. So when you read these answer options, you get an probably idea that, okay, we are talking about whose. There's something and we want to know whose. There's a probably question of, whose efforts we are talking about, right? Whose, the possession. There's probably a problem with possession. We don't know whose efforts, and that is the error. So now with this, armed with this knowledge, we want to know whose efforts, right? Is it his? We don't know who he is. Some kings, their, latter, what is it? We don't know. Now let's read the question, of course. King Louis XIII of France purchased lands for the famous. Now, another trick, whenever something starts with capital letters, it's a name. So you don't have to pronounce it wholly. You can just shorten it and it will save you time. So King L of France purchased lands for the famous, G of V in 1632. And King Louis, the other one, oversaw four major building campaigns for the gardens from approximately this to this time. Okay. Then the second sentence starts with his efforts. Now, when you say his efforts, so do you know who this he is referring to? It's a pronoun. He is a pronoun, so it has to refer to a noun, right? So which noun is it referring to? Is there any clarity? There is no clarity. We don't know, right? Therefore, this is not going to be correct. Whenever there's an ambiguity, whenever there is a doubt over which noun the pronoun is referring to, it's not going to be correct. Option B says this kings. Again, same problem. Which kings? The first one or the second one? Again, no clarity. Therefore, B is out. Option C is a very attractive option. It says there, right? And you may think, oh, wow, great, there. So it's talking about both the kings. Therefore, C is the answer. Now, here is the catch. Here is the trap. They is a plural noun that it's a plural pronoun that refers to both living and non-living things. So the there, grammatically, the pronoun refers to the closest available noun. So there will refer to the closest plural noun. In this case, the closest plural noun is, gardens or maybe like campaigns. So it cannot be referring to the closest plural noun. If you say gardens efforts, it does not make sense. If you say campaigns efforts, it does not make sense. Therefore, C is not the right answer. Now in D, it is specified the latter kings. Latter kings means this one, not the former kings, but the latter kings. So in D, there is no question about whose efforts. It's very clearly specified that of the two kings, we are talking about the latter kings, the second king's efforts. Therefore, D is your answer. So here, option C is the trap answer choice, right? A lot of you went for C, but I hope you understand, why C is not the answer. C is a plural pronoun that can refer to both, human beings as well as non-human beings. It can refer to living things as well as non-living things, right? So there, and grammatically, pronouns always refer to the closest available noun. In this case, the closest available noun to there would be closest available plural noun is gardens, not the kings, right? Everybody clear? Everyone clear about this? So it seems like a very obvious, question and very easy one, but rules of grammar are, this is a grammar section, right? So the rules of grammar have to be clear, strictly adhered to. Okay, now let's do some math. Who likes maths? I'm sure everybody likes maths, right? Let's take a minute and solve this. Please type your answer in the chat window whenever you are done. Okay, a lot of you have very quickly typed in A. So let me tell you, A is not a right answer. Now spend some time. Remember the strategy for math is to read the question, understand it, and solve it. So A is not your correct answer. Okay, so whoever is thinking A is the correct answer, A is not the correct answer. Find the correct answer. Don't be in a hurry. Solve it. Okay, so let's resolve this question. B is equidistant from A and C. What does this mean? It means, let's write it down. What is this sentence saying in math? It's a maths question, right? It means B minus A equals to C minus B, right? Everybody okay with this? B is equidistant from A and C. It means B minus A is equal to C minus B, right? 2B, or if I just do the exchange, 2B is equals to A minus B, 2B equals to A plus C. Yes. Now can you do it? Now can you guys do it? Right? So we already know what B is. B is 2 raised to 11. So 2B is 2 raised to 12. Right? 2 multiplied by 2 raised to 11 will be 2 raised to 12. So this is an easy question, but the trap answer is this, right? A lot of you would go for this, but the answer is 0. Just because you see 2 raised to 11, 2 raised to 12, oh yeah, so it has to be 2 raised to 9. But no, these are, remember, these are, these are multiply, these are not additions. Whereas on time, on number line, it is addition, right? So 2 raised to 11, 2 raised to 12, these are geometric progression, right? This is not arithmetic progression. On time line, on number line, it is always arithmetic progression, right? Everybody understands what I'm trying to say. So that is what that is what is SAT maths like, right? It is easy. It is very easy, but you have to understand and solve the question. Do not be overconfident. Do not jump to conclusions. Solve it. In math section, you are not going to have problem with time, right? So in math section, you actually have to just write it down, solve it, and get to the correct answer. This is a very easy question that everybody will get correct once you just, once you just resist the temptation of choosing A as the correct answer. Everybody understands why C is the correct answer? Is there? Does anybody need any clarification? Everyone clear why C is the answer? All right, great. So that's what that's what SAT preparation is like. It's about going beyond the obvious. These are not those are not things that you do not know, but you have to there's some certain strategies to go about them, right? So in our program, there will be we have got theory videos, practice questions, mock tests, classes. Obviously, in addition to the classes by the faculty, you get these. If you want to see, if you want to register for a trial, you can go for this. Or if you can, there are different types of classes you can go for. If you're targeting the March, especially for students who are targeting the March SAT, we have a special batch coming up where classes happen 6 days a week, right? So you are able to finish the theory part quickly and move to the mock testing part. We have got different formats, right? Whatever suits you. There are classes. If you want to take it slow, then there are 2 classes per week. If you want to take it like a crash course kind of thing for the March SAT, then there are 6 classes per week. If you want to do 4 classes per week, depending on the time, right? So all of this, these options are there. In Jamboree, we use only actual SAT test papers. So that's another advantage. When you do the mock test series with us, you do actual SAT test papers. If you want either a demo class or if you want more details, please leave your number in the chat, right? Anybody? Today we just solved 3 questions, but in case you want a more, more detailed demo, you can leave your number in the chat, right? This session is getting recorded. So the recording of this session will be sent to you, when on the email address that you use to register for this session. On that email ID, you will receive the recording of this session. All right. In the meantime, as I said, if either a profile discussion session or a demo class, if you need any of those, a more customized session, you can leave your number in the chat and our team will reach out to you to schedule it, right? Okay, someone wants to know at what age can we give SAT? So SAT, there is no age limit. You have to take it before you are 21 years old. So that's the only thing. We have students who take it in class 10, after class 10, or in class 11. So there is no lower age limit. The upper age limit is 21 years. So SAT sample question paper, etc. You can find them online at the College Board website. In fact, the mock test papers also you'll find at the College Board website. You can download them. But if you mean the SAT, the questions of the exam that you took, so those, some of the SAT test papers you can purchase them. You can get in touch with College Board. You can purchase them. That's how we get the test papers. The SAT is valid for 5 years. So a lot of our students, that's why they take the SAT right after class 10, so that then for the remaining 2 years, they can work on their profile. When you apply to universities, then, in addition to the SAT score, the rest of your profile is given a lot of weightage. So students who start with us in class 8th or 9th, so we primarily work on their profile development, right? Profile development for the first couple of years. Then the SAT, the SAT preparation starts. So, SAT is one of the admissions criteria. The rest of the application, rest of your profile development is also important. You can give the SAT after class 12 also. As I say, the upper age limit for giving the SAT exam is 21 years. So some of you are asking about the coaching, the fees. So again, it varies depending on which program you go for. So if you leave your number, then we'll speak to you to see, what your requirement is, and accordingly, let you know the fees. we have got various modules, right? So it totally depends on which one you will go for. So if you have left your number, then our team will get in touch with you to understand your specific requirement and give you the fees, etc. So that's all from my end. So I hope you found this session useful. I hope you had fun solving the questions. And in case you, as I said, you can leave your number. If not, feel free to log out. So currently, so somebody wants to know, do we take classes on Zoom only? Yes, we take classes on Zoom. We have physical centers also, but currently because of COVID, again, the third wave is there. So currently our centers are closed. In most of the states, they have closed down the coaching centers. So we are not there. But yes, we do teach online also.